In today's video, we're talking about altitude sickness. To help us out, I invited a longtime friend and member of the local community here to sit down and share with us her experience.
I'm Samantha Lafferty. I am an outdoorsy person.
Hey Samantha, how do you prepare for altitude sickness when you do your travels to Peru or Colorado?
Well, I think one of the first things that you should do is see what you would be like without being physically active at elevation. One of the things I did before I went to Peru was go to Colorado because they have a lot of high elevation hikes that you can do. Well, and Colorado sits at, 6,000 feet above sea level? I mean, it's like the Mile High City, right? Denver is. And up in the mountains, you can get higher without having to get on a trail like the mountain towns. So just go and just see how the altitude affects you just by being regular. And if you're okay, and after a couple days of acclimating, then it could be something that you can try out. I would, do a really easy hike at that altitude and see how it impacts you. And altitude sickness can be a little bit different for everybody. Some people get physically, their stomach, they feel like they have to throw up. My husband actually found out that he had altitude flatulence, and that was the only way that it impacted him. It was not pleasant, though, to be around. He's probably going to hate me for saying that, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but and for some people, they just can't do it, you can be a perfectly fit athlete and still have altitude sickness. I think that's the one thing people should realize. It doesn't matter whether you're fit or not. If you're not fit, you might be perfectly fine.
How did the altitude affect you on your trip to Colorado?
It didn't impact me a whole lot. I got a mild headache, depending on the altitude. Every time I've gone, it's just a mild headache. And after a little bit of time, I'm usually okay, pretty normal. But the higher up you go, the lower you get.
Is there a particular elevation where you start to present symptoms?
For me, I think I don't really start feeling the effects until about at least 12,000 feet. Anything below that it's just pretty regular, I think. Usually in those altitudes, so the air is drier for the most part, and so I feel dry overall, but that's just about it. I feel like I'm lucky.
Tell us about a bad experience you had with altitude sickness.
I had this one day when I was in Colorado, and we did a 13er, but we made the mistake of not getting more water once we left the tree line. And so on the way back down, we ran out of water. And so I got really dehydrated, because that's one important thing about altitude sickness and preventing it, is to make sure you stay hydrated. And once I became dehydrated, everything just felt like it hurt. My head was killing me. I could feel it down into my neck. I just wanted to lay down and go to sleep because I just hated it so much. It was a mistake I made, obviously.
Samantha, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us your experience with altitude sickness and elevation. On a personal note, I'm one of the unfortunate people that does get altitude sickness as low as 8,000 feet. It's 2 days of not being able to breathe, being not hungry at all, and just having to power through that for 2 days. By day 3, I'm perfectly fine, but ravenously hungry. If you have a story about altitude sickness or any tips on how to avoid it, please join the conversation by putting a comment down below. And if you're part of the hiking community here in Tennessee, we'll see you on the trail.